Welcome. It is a great pleasure to welcome everyone here today for our GLEIF Forum. We apologize for some of the delays, but we will get started now and shorten a bit of the ending comments, but remain on schedule. My name is Claire Rowley. I'm managing the business operations at GLEIF. We are very grateful for the travel and the participation coming from our Regulatory Oversight Committee, our LEI issuers, and our GLEIF board. We have also in the web stream roughly 50 participants that are joining today, so good morning, good afternoon, good evening to you as well. I have a few colleagues here, David and Lola, that will be facilitating throughout, so please, if you have any questions, feel free to also ask to them. And with that, I will call to the stage the ROC Chair, Fabrizio Planta, and the GLEIF Board Chair, Dessa Glasser, for some welcoming remarks.
Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to this forum. We met last year in Zurich, and this year was really a year of transition. But I'm grateful to see that the transition was smooth, and that we are now even transitioning to a new area for GLEIF with a number of new initiatives. We discussed this morning the strategy that they put in place, which is ambitious, but also quite creative to change the way in which GLEIF is operating and to find a new revenue stream. So we will certainly monitor closely all those new services, but we believe that the initiatives are valid. Still, we should not forget what we are already working on, and the one problem that we have identified already last year, and that is creating an issue, and for which there is the need to cooperate closely with the LOUs, and it's the lapse issue. So one of our committee, the CSS, is working closely on this matter. There will be a dedicated group with LOUs, ROC members, and GLEIF to work on this issue, and I really invite you all to be open-minded on trying to address this problem and solve it. And with this, I hand over to Dessa.
Thanks, Fabrizio. And okay, welcome everyone. I'm going to keep my my opening very, very short, but I wanted to welcome the ROC, the GLEIF board, who have traveled in, and the majority of them are here. So I recommend that you introduce yourself on the break, as well as our GLEIF staff and all of our partners out there. So you're all partners with us. We are excited for our new strategy, which you're going to hear a lot about, I think, tomorrow. And excited to hear a lot of the developments that are going on. We appreciate the support of the ROC, which we need to have, but we're doing a lot of really interesting things and are excited to show that to you. So on that, thank you, Fabrizio, for you and Mike and all your support, and for all of you here, because we wouldn't be able to accomplish our mission without you. And we do need your help to reduce the lapse numbers and to increase our LEIs out there. And you'll hear a lot about that. So thanks so much, and welcome. And I'm looking forward to the program. So thank you for those also presenting.
Thank you, Fabrizio, and thank you, Dessa. I would like to now call to the stage Mrs. Emmanuelle Assoun, Director General of Financial Stability and Operations of Banque de France. Emmanuelle.
So, good afternoon, and I'm Emmanuelle Assoun, Director General for Financial Stability here in Banque de France, and I'm very happy to welcome you today to celebrate this anniversary of the Legal Entity Identifier. So I will have a very high-level, candid perspective compared to all the discussions that will take place over the forthcoming sessions. But from time to time, it's worth also to state a little bit the obvious, including in front of the experts that you are. So as you well know, better than me even, that the LEI was introduced in the aftermath of the great financial crisis, which revealed critical flaws in the transparency and the risk management of financial markets. Overarching objective of the LEI, you know it by heart, it's to create a unique and standardized identification system for legal entities engaged in financial transactions, and it's as a final goal to enable regulators and market participants to monitor and manage risks effectively. So we have an ambition. Where do we stand as of today in terms of achievements, challenges, and outlook from my perspective of a central banker? So first, on the achievements. One of the most notable successes of the LEI from the central bank perspective has been its widespread adoption. What I note is hundreds of thousands of entities around the world which are registered with an LEI. This includes not only financial and big financial institutions, but also medium-sized non-financial corporates involved in regulated financial transactions. We have already a strong improvement in terms of transparency in financial markets. It allows the LEI to regulators and market participants to map transactions more effectively, to set the right connections, aggregate, disaggregate consistent exposures. What I would like to note as well among the achievements is the vital role that LEI plays in terms of harmonizing financial data. And it's worth noting in a world where fragmentation is too often outweighs standardization. Maybe last point, when it regards achievements, it's the fact that LEI has become mandatory of mandatory use in some areas of the world. So consider, for instance, in Europe, for the European Union, the MiFID directive, the Markets in Financial Instruments directive, the second one, or in the US, the Dodd-Frank Act, which both require the use of LEI for reporting purposes. But it's not only in reporting that mandatory requirement is made in terms of LEI, it is also the case for some payments purpose. And here, let me take as an example the Bank of England requirements that will make LEI a mandatory field for the payment messages in the new CHAPS. So achievements, but in front of that, we have to observe also a series of remaining challenges. And I guess that you will discuss those a lot in the coming hours and tomorrow. There are still significant disparities between regions and sectors. It might stem from the lack of awareness and understanding of the LEI among certain and a lot of stakeholders. Many small businesses and entities may not fully grasp the benefits of obtaining an LEI or may perceive it as an unnecessary burden. Diversity of financial systems and regulations across jurisdictions has also complicated the integration of the LEI. Different countries have a lot of varying requirements for entity identification, which can hinder the seamless use of the LEI. It is crucial to continue working towards harmonizing these practices to ensure a more cohesive, consistent global financial system. Lastly, and it will be my last point, I would like to embrace the perspective of a user of the LEI in my capacity of Director General for Financial Stability and Operations here in Banque de France. LEI is critical to enable our work on financial interconnections. I would like to explain that through the prism of two examples in the French context. The use of LEI allows us to consolidate security statistics and holdings at the issuer level and to map cross-holdings between financial institutions within the euro area and beyond between, let's say, the euro area and US institutions, for instance. With these networks at hand, we can carry out a vast range of analyses. Two of them I would like to underline. First, the French Macroprudential Authority, what we call the HCSF, Haut Conseil de Stabilité Financière, regularly conducts a mapping of interconnections between banks and non-bank financial institutions within the French financial system. And we go beyond, we get into the non-financial corporates when it's relevant as well. The goal is to better understand the role of NBFI as potential catalyzers and amplifiers of shocks, like during the COVID crisis, Archegos, and other episodes. It is key to identify the direct and indirect interconnections between financial institutions, take the photo, the snapshot of portfolio similarities, to be aware of possible procyclical behavior and effects. Second, we are currently developing a system-wide contagion analysis in order to go one step further and get into a motion perspective, develop a forward-looking perspective. We develop a contagion model based on these networks of interconnections to which we apply a stress scenario. Results from such analysis will allow us to pin down, locate the main vulnerabilities within the financial system, both at the investor and at the issuer level, and potentially we might elaborate policy recommendations to safeguard financial stability. When I mean policy recommendations, it's macroprudential recommendations or requirements. When I take the hat of operations and when considering operations and particularly payments, LEI is also key. It is one key feature of the G20 roadmap to reduce costs and enhance speed, transparency, and accessibility of cross-border payments. A broader adoption of LEIs to identify legal persons should help reducing frictions resulting from the complexity of cross-border payment chains. For instance, the CPMI, as part of the ISO 20022 implementation, recognized the benefits of using LEI, and FATF is also considering the inclusion of such identifiers in its review of Recommendation 16. But also from a domestic perspective, in the context of fraud prevention, payments fraud prevention, the use of LEIs facilitates IBAN name checks for verification of payee, the VOP services, which are to be generalized in Europe in the forthcoming years. So now I would like to conclude. It's time and evoke three key perspectives. We want to maximize the benefits of the LEI, so we must focus on broadening its adoption. It has to be achieved, we consider, through targeted outreach initiatives, educational programs, partnerships with industry associations. The rapid advancement of financial technologies presents also an exciting opportunity venue for the LEI, where innovation is absolutely key. So Innovations such as blockchain, artificial intelligence can enhance the efficiency and effectiveness of the LEI system. For instance, integrating the LEI with blockchain technology could provide real-time tracking of transactions and improve the accuracy of data. And I'm pretty sure that both the supervisors and the central banks will be very happy to have such data in times of crisis when it will come. New initiatives such as the verified LEI, the vLEI, which is secure digital version of a conventional LEI, as you know, would provide instant automated verification of legal entities and their persons in official and functional roles. So promoting new standards is key also for the additional development of LEI. So as you can see, as LEI is a key feature enabler of our central bank missions, Banque de France is very happy, is very honored also to welcome you for this 2024 GLEIF Forum, and I wish you all, on behalf of Banque de France, a lively and very fruitful forum. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Emmanuel. I would now like to call to the stage the participants of our panel 1, Unlocking Tomorrow, Innovative Use Cases for the LEI. And I would turn over to our moderator, Matteo Piazza, chair of the FSB Cross-Border Payments Data and Identifiers Working Group. Thank you.
Okay, good afternoon, and thanks first of all to the ROC, to the GLEIF, and to the Banque de France for organizing this forum. I think is really important and a good opportunity to exchange views among all the stakeholders of the LEI. I have the pleasure to moderate this panel where we will delve into initiatives involving the LEI in cross-border payments and know your customer onboarding. I'm really confident that this session will provide a good illustration of how the LEI can improve efficiency, ensure compliance, and secure seamless payment transaction, as it was mentioned in the presentation of the panel. I will abuse just for 1 minute of my role of moderator, saying that I'm here as a chair of the Financial Stability Board Working Group on Cross-Border Payment Data and Identifier. And as Emmanuel Arsan was mentioning, the G20 and the FSB and also other international organizations are putting a lot of importance in this work on enhancing cross-border payments. And the reason why I'm here is because in my group we are also putting a lot of emphasis on the importance of LEI as a way to streamline and to improve cross-border payments, both from a point of view of a seamless payment transaction experience, but also from the point of view of compliance with ML requirements, but also with sanctions. And to keep my promise to stay in 1 minute, I will tell you that we published a report on LEI just last month on the FSB website, LEI Progress Report that takes stock of the situation and the opportunities for improvement for a broader adoption and other initiatives, so you can have a look at this. And the second report that we published was a draft consultative report where there was also a recommendation on LEI, just for cross-linking LEI with all the other work that is going on into the payment space, for example, the ISO 2022 migration, the recommendation 16 of FATF, and so many other important policy initiatives. So we have this draft report in July, and we will have the final recommendation and the final report published likely in December this year. So with these references to our work, if you are interested to have a look at what the international organizations are doing on this, I think the space today is more for the people in the panel to present their initiatives. So I will start. We thought with GLEIF to have a kind of lively discussion, so to have a free round of questions, so to have quick response if it's possible by you. Obviously, if you need some more time, no problem at all, but it would be appreciated. And I would start with, I think there is a change. Adia Abarkaner, it's correct, your name?
Yes, exactly. Adia Berkan.
Okay, perfect. I will start with you, and I will ask all the panelists in the first round to share a bit about their background and how it relates to today's topics of LEI usage in cross-border payments and KYC voting. Please, Adia.
Thank you. And hello, everyone. I hope you enjoy this forum and this panel and the next one as well. I am in charge of the LEI program within BNP Paribas CIB, so BNP Paribas Corporate and Institutional Banking. Just for information, maybe if you didn't know already, BNP Paribas became an LEI validation agent in 2023. And we're generalizing the usage of the LEI to identify our clients within CIB first, with the ambition to generalize this usage even beyond the CIB. So this project is managed by the Transversal and Central CIB Data Office, which first objective is to ensure that data quality within CIB is enough to answer to regulatory requirements, as well as present good quality reportings. So as you know, the LEI is a critical data in the sense that it will be used in MiFID directory reportings or such as EMIR reportings as well. So this is to say that the LEI initiative within BNP Paribas CIB first started with a regulatory background because it started in about 10 years ago, and then now we're just focusing on the more business use cases that we had identified. For example. In terms of KYC onboarding, it's very interesting for us to use the LEI to retrieve other external data, for example, that is proposed from service providers such as Encompass, for example. So for BNP Paribas, the LEI is for now starting to be generalized for CIB clients, for new CIB clients, and it's very interesting now for the KYC and onboarding process specifically. As for cross-border payments, that is indeed one of the use cases that we're working on that is still under analysis for now.
Thank you very much, Adia. Then I will move to Steven Meizanis, please.
Hi, my name is Steve Mazanis. I am the global head of Bloomberg's LEI services and actually all their open symbology initiatives, which includes the financial instrument Global Identifier. We've been an issuer of LEI since 2017. When we started thinking about becoming an issuer, we looked at some of the internal things that we did. We've always collected entity content, and we thought it was a natural extension of what we did is to become an LEI issuer and make that data available specifically to our clients. But as we grew in this space, we knew there was much more to this. And a great example of, you know, we do a lot of name matching internally, and name matching is very expensive, and it's prone to errors, especially when you're missing simple things like LP or LLC and ELF code at the end. Like I could tell you I work for Bloomberg, but is that Bloomberg Inc., Bloomberg Finance Inc., Bloomberg LLP? You don't know unless I tell you it's LP. So when we started looking at it, we thought it was that much more important. And then the hardships that our clients have when they're onboarding new data sets. And one great example of that is with sanctions data. There's all these sanctions lists globally from OFAC, Her Majesty's Treasury, HKMA, MAS, all these different lists. And our clients are required to bring them in as part of their KYC processes so they don't do business with these particular entities. So, you know, we created this name disambiguation services where we, you know, try to map the name automatically. And when we can't, then we'll use our analysts to try to map it. And then once we understand what that entity is, we'll include it in our database. And becoming an LEI issuer just made that much more sense because we take that LEI data and pair it against this other internal data that our clients could use. So they are not being fined. They're following your KYC processes to a T. I met with a friend the other night. Her name is Marie, and she's opening up a pub. And she was wondering, and she was talking about LEI, and I'm not too sure how we got on the conversation, but she's looking at a new supply chain. And she's looking at, you know, who do I do business with? How do I know that they're relevant? How did I know that I could trust these people? I said, well, first of all, let's start simply. Let's get them in LEI. One, it grows the system. But two, because you know what an LEI is, it's supposed to uniquely authenticate the existence of that entity. And then you can look at other places for other data sets you may need that you're comfortable with. So even in just an everyday conversation, having a pint, and we're talking about an LEI. So I thought it was very, very relevant to mention here, and I think I shared it with a few fellows last night as well. But back from a Bloomberg perspective, we use it for our other products. It just makes a lot of sense. When you look at trying to verify the existence of a particular entity, we'll continue to do so. Like I said, we've been doing this since 2017, and you know, hopefully we get to do it, you know, even more so in the future. Thank you.
This was indeed an innovative perspective using LEI for a daily conversation. Okay, Guillermo de la Fuente, please.
Hello. Good afternoon. Thank you very much, the Banque de France, for hosting the event in this historical building in the heart of Paris. And thank you very much, GLEIF, for inviting me and giving the opportunity to corporate treasurers to speak in this forum. My name is Guillermo de la Fuente. I work for a multinational. I've been more than 35 years working in finance, in treasury specifically. Treasury department is the department in charge of liquidity, financing, risk management, FX risk, interest risk, also payments as well. And you will see I have different hats here. I'm just not working for a corporate, also a member of the European Treasurers, Corporate Treasurer Association, member of the Swiss Treasurers Association, and representing the corporate association in different forums like the European Banking Authority, the banking stakeholder group, also in different fighting payment fraud forums like the Global Coalition for Fighting Financial Crime, the GASA, and in many other forums, of course, in GLEIF as a chairman of the vendor groups. I want to just show you the 35 years experience in payments, just giving you a little example. No, some people here maybe are cannot believe it, but 30 years ago, most of the payments were paper-based. And we had a full-time person working on payments, and his mission was to carry the papers, the signatures, the folder with all the payments which were there that day, and carry to different signatures and also to different departments, and also carry it to the bank. So this is an example that now, maybe, as I say, most of you are not familiar with that, but this is an example of how the profession changed in the last 20 years. I mean, from a paper-based procedure to a almost fully digitalized process now. And this is the reason that we believe that LEI and the digital economy that we are now involved, we think that's the reason that the voice of the corporate treasurer, the voice of the real economy, needs to be listened.
Thank you, Guillermo. So I will start the other way around. So I will start from you also the second round of questions. And here I would like to ask you this question, starting from the fact that the value of the LEI obviously grows the more widely it is used. There is a clear network effect on this. What do you think needs to be done to increase the LEI usage in cross-border payments and KYC onboarding to allow, all the benefits that could come, indeed, especially from a cross-border perspective, from the use of a global standardized identifier?
Yeah, I think, first of all, I will invite you to read the Financial Stability Board report just published a few weeks ago, where you have a very good recommendations on the enhancement of LEI usage. I think in that document there are many waves, or there are many hints of how can LEI can be used and further developed. We think also that the financial institutions need to work on the onboarding, for instance, when a new corporate or is onboarding, opening a bank account. I think the validation agents is a very important step, offering an LEI from the beginning without waiting for the corporate to ask. And also, I think personally, I have some ideas of which can be the mapping of the national register with the LEI. I think that will really push the usage of LEI and make a broader usage. I think also and that's the reason corporate treasury start falling in love with LEI, because we've been under a lot of pressure from payment fraud. And as I said before, in the past, when this person was carrying the payments, the manual payments to the bank, the risk was the counterfeit signature or being hijacked or this kind of risk. And now with this new digital economy, the risks are different, and the criminals are finding the vulnerability of the system, and they know that there is a lot of vulnerabilities in the payment systems now, especially what we've been advocating from the Association of Corporate Treasurers is there was not the verification of the name and the bank account number. So that was a a vulnerability that the fraudsters started to exploit. And then we've been very concerned about it because in my specific case, in my company, we have two real attempts to commit fraud. One was an invoice which was intercepted, and the other one was a change in the bank account of one of our suppliers. So we start to being concerned about these vulnerabilities in the system, and we start to thinking how could we fix those vulnerabilities. And when we met GLEIF and they came with the LEI solutions, we start to thinking about different solutions or how implementing LEI could help. And one of the projects that I'm very proud to share with you was the eSeal project, where our company CETA and Hitachi make a cross-border payment through the issuing of e-invoicing or digital invoices. So another example that we implemented with GLEIF was exchanging bank account information from the supplier to our company in a secure way using the embedded certificate from GLEIF. So what I'm trying to say here is with the verification now in place, with the verification of payment or payee or of confirmation of payee in UK, now is a complete change in the payment ecosystem. Now we are really trying to fix the vulnerability of the payment process, and this is where LEI has to be really sold as a benefit player, because when you make a verification using the LEI instead of using a name or an address or something like that, there is no ambiguity, and it's much easier. There is less friction on the payment, less rejection, less misdirection of payment. So in that sense, I think we have to now take advantage of the payment legislation, the changes, the huge changes in the payment process now, like the ISO 222, like the instant payment, the PSD3, all these regulations, all these changes, the recommendation 16, all these changes that are now in place, I think is the right time to raise our voice and say that we have to use more effective tools, and I believe that LEI is an effective tool. Also, and I will finish, the anti-money laundering, sanction screening. We need to use the LEI data to avoid entering or inputting address, country names, all these different fields that are going to be a nightmare for a corporate treasurer. That will be when making a payment, that will be an open door for mistakes. And using an LEI, I think, will be very, very effective as a way to verify and make sure that the payments are well verified, and the sanction screening as well are well controlled.
Okay, thank you very much, Guillermo. And Adia, please.
Yeah, thanks. So I see for this specific question, I think the LEI should be made more available. And when I say more available, I mean in the sense that, very generally speaking, within every continent, every country should be able to say, this is the mapping with the national identifier that we have with the LEI. So this is what I like your idea, Guillermo. So this is this is how we could make the LEI a standard, by ensuring it's known by everyone, by chambers of commerces within different countries. And on another hand, just when we see what we're doing within BNP Paribas, and where we struggle and where our clients struggle, is how the LEI could replace and streamline a few processes, such as the payment process again. And for us to gather some information from clients, it would be much easier for us and for clients if data providers had the LEI for each for the legal entities that they list. So if it would be interesting that any data platform which would be free or to pay for, if they made the LEI available, that's how we could augment its usage and its benefits across different sectors.
Thank you. And Stephen, please.
Sure. To grow the use of LEIs, a simple response is regulatory compulsion, but we're not. I don't want to talk about that because I think there's a lot more we can do advertising the uses of the LEI, not just for trading and transaction purposes. I'd say go on LinkedIn, but I think we'd have to compete with the GLEIF with all their advertisements on LinkedIn about LEI, which they do a great job on. But I don't think, and I'll say specifically from my role, I don't think I do enough to promote its use outside of your standard uses, why it was originally created. Look, ideally, we talked about earlier a little bit about supply chain. I think that would lend itself there. As this world becomes more digitized, no one wants to look at a series of names or letters. They want to see a numerical value that replaces all that. So I think from that perspective is anytime you deal with a particular entity, think about, how could we use the LEI better with this particular firm? The sanction stuff we talked about as well, but I really go back to supply chain. I think that is still yet to be explored, and I think there's a great opportunity to increase its usage. And the other thing, too, is, you hear consistently that the LEI is not cheap. I think it's cheap. I mean, you look across the price structure, across all the LEUs, and it's cheap. So when you hear it's too expensive to get, too expensive to renew, I think we have to squash that as well. It's free to use. It's only the register that needs to pay for it. And I think if we convince the larger entities that have the huge supply chains and start implementing that, then I think it just snowballs from there. And I think that's a great opportunity for all of us, and the LEI system for that matter.
Okay, thank you. As sanction came up twice in our discussion, I would like to add that indeed in our report that will be published next month, we will likely have a recommendation on sanction as we did in the consultative report, and we had already some conversation with OFAC, HMAC, Treasury, and European Commission. So I think that's a point that is indeed in our mind as an important point. And on trade, obviously, I mean, payments are strictly related to trade, so I think there will be a huge advantage in having, LEI that to complete the whole chain from the real and financial point of view. So finally, and I will start with you for the last round, Stephen. It's a point that has been already a bit touched upon by Guillermo in the previous intervention, that with the introduction of fast payment system, we know now that there are over 700 jurisdictions around the world that are adopting fast payment system, and there are projects to do interlinking among them, etc. I think authorities will need to look closely at fraud and how to put in place appropriate measures to limit new fraud opportunities. And from this point of view, I would like to ask you, from your perspective, how can the LEI ensure a well-functioning fast payment system, and how can the vLEI as a digital credential be leveraged to secure secure fast payment systems that are not so prone to fraud?
Yeah, I mean, the LEI itself, by its nature, should generally speed up the system, because at that point you're not verifying the authenticity of that particular entity. But the LEI, I mean, is just a singular piece to that. There's more. I mean, and I think this goes into the vLEI conversation where, look, not only do you need to know that the person you're billing or they're billing you, for example, you need to know their role, but you need to know that that person works at that particular firm. And there's no system out there that enables you to do it. Sure, you can pull up an SEC document or Google the company and find out something there, but we all know the internet is 100% correct. But I think there needs to be something different. I think this is the play for the vLEI, is to understand not only the entity you're dealing with, but the person on the other side of that phone call or that email that gets sent to you. That you need to be able to verify. So LEI is great. vLEI, I think, is what's going to make it safe, and make it actually faster for that matter.
Thank you. Adia, please.
So, as I said earlier, the use case, the usage of the LEI for fast payments within BNP Paribas is still under analysis. That is, of course, one of the use cases that we have been anticipating, and we are putting some resources into that, but I cannot go as far as to give any recommendation or an advice on this or an opinion. However, I do believe that the vLEI could be useful in identifying UBOs, and at least for CIB, for institutional clients, this is the use that we identify today for investment banking as at least.
Guillermo,
Yeah.
touch a bit, but
Yes, thank you very much. This is one of my favorite topics, instant payments. From the European Treasury Association, we have been very actively involved in the regulation in the last 2-3 years. And as I said before, we took advantage of the situation to leverage our action. As I said before, we were concerned about the fact that there was not a verification of name and payment and account number when making payments, and that was a vector of fraud for corporates. It was the main threat that we were facing corporate treasury. So we took advantage of that change in the regulation, and that's the reason we participate very actively in this instant payment regulation in Europe. And the reason that we are extremely proud and happy is because the verification of name and bank account was for the first time recognized. As you know, in the PSD2 regulation that was not included, and now in the instant payment regulation was for the first time included, and also in the PSD3 regulation is going to be included as well. So we are talking about verification, and when we're talking about verification, the main factor to be used to avoid an ambiguity is the LEI number. And this is the reason we, from the European Treasury Association, we advocate very strongly on the alternative of LEI as a way to check the bank account number. And I have to say that it's been recognized not only in the last European Payment Council rulebook scheme and in another regulation and documentation as well, and now the LEI is being considered. It can be considered as an alternative to the name or the beneficiary. So, in that case, we have to say that the fast payments and the LEI have make a lot of sense, and we're gonna go. I have to tell you something that in this regulation, something was not finally recognized, but if you been following that regulation. The regulator wanted also to include the sanction screening of every single payment in the instant payment. And the reason that was rejected is because it was almost impossible. It was impossible to make a check of the name and the bank account number in 5 seconds, plus a sanction screening at the same time in such a small period of time. So at the end, the regulator and the community decided to do differently that one. But now, I don't know if you have time to read, for instance, the project Mandala from the bank, the Bank in the International Settlement, where you can see how all those checks can be done very, very quick, and also it gives it opens the door for checking not just sanction screening but also anti-money laundering screening. And I think this is the next step that is going to happen in the fast payments and also other payments. The check of anti-money laundering, the check of the address, the fields in the address, and using the LEI will be, as I said before, an unambiguous and very, very efficient way to make the checks.
Thank you, Guillermo. I think at this point, if there are no pressing questions from the audience, I think we can give back 5 minutes to the organizer as we are running a bit late. But if you have any question specific to the work that our panelists are doing or to the work that the FSB is doing, please raise your hand. I cannot see anyone, so well, please.
Yeah. Just very few seconds. One comment. I'm a lawyer, and since 10 years I'm using the LEI just to identify my counterparty within some contract, because we are all used to analyze banking contracts. I'm a part of ArcelorMittal Group, and when it's time to contract with BNP, I don't know who is BNP in front of me. So the LEI is really relevant for me to identify the legal entity behind the BNP group that's discussed with me. And I have one question regarding the usage of the LEI for KYC purpose. Maybe it's a question for BNP. I understand that banks widely use 5, 6, 7 identifier for complying with their KYC obligation. What about using only LEI when it's robust enough, reliable enough to avoid this back and forth communication in between banks, institutions, and corporate clients or individuals tomorrow? We don't know. That's it.
Thank you for your question. Yes, that sounds very interesting. That's very ambitious, but we would like to have less burden, less identifiers for each entity. For now, we are working on trying to map even our internal identifiers with the LEI. And when we are absolutely sure on that it's the correct way to do it and that we have the right mapping even with other external identifiers, then we would know for sure that we could, it's some kind of backtesting, and we would know for sure that only one identifier, which would be the LEI, could replace the others.
May have a quick comment there. I didn't mention KYC because I had too many other things to say, but as you can imagine, as a corporate treasurer, KYC is one of the main pain points for us. We understand the importance of KYC. We are not rejecting the usage of KYC, but we think, and I personally believe that LEI can be very beneficial streamlining KYC processes. And one of my dreams, it will be to have a kind of passport where some banks recognize on corporates that they are already KYC'd. And this is something that I think now I'm challenging some banks here in the audience to work together on doing that with GLEIF, of course, and trying to have a kind of basic KYC document that can be shared with other banks or with other financial institutions. And so when we want to open a new bank account, as you say now, as you can imagine now, opening a bank account for a corporate takes 3 or 4 months. So maybe if we manage to find a streamlined KYC or baseline KYC using GLEIF and LEI, maybe we can reduce that time and make this pain point less painful.
Thank you. So I think we concluded with a note for an agenda for the future, and so I would like to thank the panelists and ask you to join me.
Thank you once again to the excellent panel. And now we're going to continue with a very dynamic and interactive session for today. So following the introduction of the Policy Conformity Flag, we at GLEIF, we introduce the Transparency in Global Financial Markets Challenge. The purpose of this challenge is to recognize the LEI issuer that executed the most innovative outreach campaign to promote the Policy Conformity Flag, but at the same time, that also has achieved a significant improvement in the number of conforming LEIs. Yes, after announcing the challenge, we received several submissions from different LEI issuers, and we have reviewed them carefully and have selected 2 finalists. These 2 organizations are now going to come to the stage, and they're going to make a pitch of 1 minute to present their idea to all of you. Following their presentations, we're going to use Slido, and all of you, the audience, you're going to vote who is the winner, and that also counts for the virtual attendees. So just a heads up, we're going to be using Slido. If you need to connect to the Wi-Fi, I think there is Wi-Fi in the room. You don't need any credentials to access the Wi-Fi in the room. Just need to put your name, last name, and email address, so for you to be prepared. But before we invite our 2 finalists to the stage, we would also like to take a moment to have a few honorary mentions and recognize a few other LEI issuers that also carry out some meaningful efforts on this matter. So I'm just going to take a few seconds to first of all recognize Nord LEI, who they launched a multilingual campaign to address non-conforming LEIs, and they actively publish articles to promote the Policy Conformity Flag. We also want to highlight Sirius, who they developed a dedicated website to raise awareness among their clients on the importance of the Policy Conformity Flag, and they are actually streamlined the process to convert and increase the conforming LEIs. And last but not least, we also want to give a very important recognition to CSCS Nigeria, who they actually allocated additional resources and had additional staff following up with the entities, boosting awareness about the Policy Conformity Flag. And yes, it's been acknowledged and noted, and we pretty much appreciate the efforts of all of these organizations. So without further delay, it's my pleasure to invite our first finalist to the stage, and that will be the representative from LEIL, India.
Good afternoon, everyone. First of all, thank you so much for giving us this opportunity to present our processes which we use to achieve this conformity status. So for us, LEI is not just another identifier. It has a larger objective of promoting financial stability and transparency. So from beginning, when we started this LEIL operations in 2014, we recognized that this is a very critical piece of work which we are going to do. In fact, CCIL, our parent, is a central counterparty in India, which clears forex, government securities, money market, and derivative instruments. So that lineage has really given us a lot of responsibility, so to say. So that is why when this challenge came to us, actually it was a way of life for us. So it's nothing new which we were doing. So our approach is very simple. Not, they are calling for innovative challenge, but our approach is very simple. So our approach is do it right for the first time. So LEI metadata should reflect the parent linkage correctly, accurately. So we should be doing our due diligence. Although we recognize that LEI is the data provided by the legal entity, it has to be validated by the LOU, but we go beyond that. So for that we ask them to submit their audited financial statement also. And from the financial statement, even if they say that they don't have a parent or I have no parent, etc., a lot of exceptions which are provided, we ask them, and if we recognize that there is indeed a parent, we recognize them and ask them that why don't you really report it. So that has really helped us. So from the beginning, our dialogue with our legal entities, our clients have been very positive, and I must appreciate that this has been a very fulfilling experience for all of us. And if at all, it has really, the data is not there or they are not willing to provide, carry the right reporting as no LEI, non-public or no LEI in the GLEIF system. So this is the first approach. The second part of this whole thing is building a lasting relationship. So towards that, when we talk to the legal entities, we talk many times in the local languages also. That really helps. And when this challenge came, so our regulator also, they emphasized that you must reach out to each one of those entities who are not conforming. So we reached out through emails, through personal phone calls, and through that, some good results we have achieved. So again, supporting in local languages, automated reminders. We have our automated reminder system, which really tracks. Even if it becomes lapse also, we don't leave them. We, ultimately we reach out to them so that they get renewed. And one thing which I would like to highlight is that, probably when we talk to the entities, we also need to educate them about the importance of LEI. It's just not another identifier which they have to subscribe to. So if they really understand, most of the legal entities, I find that they conform, they really subscribe to that. Although it's a challenging process, it's a time and cost effort is involved. So, but we believe that when we are working for a greater world order where financial stability and transparency is a must, this is the responsibility of the LOUs to perform, and we are doing our duty. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And now we're going to call to the stage our second finalist, UB Secure.
Good afternoon, and thank you for the opportunity to be here. For us, for UB Secure, for Conformity Flag, it's about making sure that everyone who has an LEI understands why they have it and the value that's there. It's about maximising that perceived value. You heard from Emmanuel earlier that many organisations don't understand this and they see it as just some regulatory compliance and burden. There's a strategic driver behind that LEI. For us, we believe that owning an LEI can save you 99% of your operational costs. We can walk that back through and show where that comes from. It enables so much with an organisation. You heard from Stephen that there's a question around cost of the LEI as well. Right, in terms of how does that transfer? That cost is, what, 50, 60, 70, 80 euros per LEI. But there is a cost behind that, which is the process cost. So actually getting the LEI issued, getting a letter of authority from the executive within the organisation is maybe thousands of euros cost to get that letter for a 50 euro LEI. Taking the friction out of the process is what we need to do to ensure better renewal, better stats for that, and that then drives conformity. We have to remove that friction to make it work, and that's where we focus. That's how we look to do this. First of all, multi-year. By having a multi-year contract, we can get automatic renewal within that period. We still need to work with the customer, but it's one period for that time. We launched multi-year back in 2019. Now we're coming up to that renewal point of those 5 years. That's 5 years worth of renewal for that one LEI, as long as they haven't lapsed, that they don't have to go through the same level of friction to achieve. We still need to vet it, we still need to check it, but there are simplifications that help the customer with that. Level 2, it is complex. If you're a user of an LEI, you need to make sure you get the right data and keep that current as you go through. We specialise on the UI in terms of focusing how they can more simply understand how they declare those level 2 relationships and how they enter them into the system. That's been fundamental in making sure that we get that right initially. Same as you heard from LEIL. Getting it right first time means that you've got this right going forwards. And you can see from the stats that we have that we've got great figures in doing that. The third item from our side, we need to reach out to all of the LEI users, and we can't do that as a single point for a global LOU. We need that RA network. So having a conformant, performant, and rewarded RA network that allows us to use them to reach out and drive that renewal locally across all of those partners and all of those users helps us get that renewal figure up once they've finished their contract, be it a 1 year, 3 year, 5 year LEI renewal contract. It's also about the ongoing education. How can they get more value from that LEI? How can it do something as mind-breaking as taking a 99% saving on operational costs? We can give case studies and show how having an LEI starts you on the path to being able to achieve that. And we've shown that in Finnish government from 2008 through to now. Pre-LEI, it's the same basis that does that. Finally, fully corroborated enhances value, and it's the least frictional type of LEI. If we know that everything is fully validated through the business registry, we don't need to have so many questions and so many interactions with that end entity, so we can push that fully corroborated side, and that helps us have a frictionless, smoother, faster process. That's what we do for the corroboration side. Thank you.
Thank you, Simon. And with that, we are gonna now move to Slido, and I will kindly ask my colleague Lola to, exactly. So for those who are not familiar with the tool, you can scan the QR that you can see displayed on the website, or alternatively, you can also access the website directly, slido.com, and then you need to type the event name, GLEIF. So we're gonna give some time to everyone, also our virtual attendees, to be able to join the event, so maybe a few more seconds to make sure that we have sufficient participation. And no, not yet. We are gonna launch it right away, since we, I think, have enough. So we can launch it, Lola. And there you go. So WeShareLOU has implemented the most innovative initiative to promote transparency and achieve current and complete reporting by legal entities. We thank all the participants in advance for your active participation and giving us your feedback. We have now almost 91 people casting their votes. So we want to make sure everyone can submit their feedback. So maybe a few more seconds. I think we have a clear winner. And in that case, we want to congratulate LEIL, and we have a small trophy to
Okay. Thank you to everyone. We are a few minutes late, so we're going to shorten the coffee break to 15 minutes. If everybody could be back for 16:45, and we will move into the second half of our session. Thank you. Thank you, everybody. If everybody could take the seats, we will go to the second half of the program. So we very much appreciate for everybody to take the seats, and we will move into our second panel. And we have now our panelists on the stage for our panel 2, Organizational Identity, Making Trust the Cornerstone of International Trade and Business Transaction on a Global Scale. I will turn over next to Stéphane Mathieu, Head of AML CFT Policy at the ACPR. Stéphane.
Thank you, and good afternoon, everyone. Happy to be here. Just a few words of introduction. So indeed, I'm now head of AML CFT Policy at the ACPR, which is the financial sector supervisor in France, in charge of most of the financial sector. But I had deep connections with the LEI in the past. First, as to introduce the LEI on the G20 agenda in 2011 when I was in the French Treasury. A member of the LEI ROC and providing secretariat services to the LEI ROC when I was at the FSB secretariat until 5-6 years ago. So very fond memories of the LEI system, and still working sometimes on the LEI when, for instance, I'm currently part of the FATF work to renovate our payment transparency standard and introduce the LEI as part of the payment transparency at the global level, as we did in the EU for the same area. But today we are going to discuss another part, another interest of the LEI, the vLEI, and the question of that is also very close to the idea of anti-money laundering and fraud that was discussed in part in the last panel. Is it's one thing to identify an entity, and the question is who is entitled to act for the entity, and from our perspective it's already some of the challenge. But we'll have 3 panelists today to discuss this. Gaetano, Andrew and Gang. Gaetano from the European Banking Authority, Andrew from the ICC, the International Chamber of Commerce, and Gang Zhu from the CFCA. I will let them tell you a bit more about what they do and the connection of LEI, about this question of creating this link, this reliable link and trust on this connection, who can act upon for an entity. And first, maybe with the BA, how the business cases you have and what's the benefits that can be derived there from the vLEI.
Thank you very much, Stefan. Hello, everybody. And thank you very much to Banque de France and to GLEIF and to all the participants for having me here today. Well, I'm Gaetano Ghionzini. I'm the head of statistics at the ABA. I joined the ABA more than 10 years ago. I'm one of the dinosaurs of the ABA, I would say. I don't know if you are familiar with the EU supervisory framework that we have in Europe, but those of you that may not be so familiar with it, the EBA was set up in 2011 after the global financial crisis, together with the ESMA and the EIOPA and the ESRB to constitute the so-called European System of Financial Stability. And the EBA in particular is in charge of, as the regulatory sector for the credit institution for the banks. As such, we also collect a lot of data, and we started collecting data since the very beginning, for a sample of banks, and then we have increased our reporting population. Now we receive data from the entire banking population, but also payment institutions, resolution entities, and whatever. So overall, we have a reporting population of more than 12,000 entities. I heard the previous panel, I heard when Guillermo said that he fell in love with the LEI. Well, I also fell in love with the LEI a long time ago. Actually, the LEI saved my life a long time ago. Because you can imagine how difficult it is to collect data from a sample of institutions in the entire in Europe from 30 countries, and you don't know how to identify these entities. And this was really a major challenge a long time ago. But I have also to say that I'm a bad lover, because now I'm in love with the vLEI, and because the vLEI is really something much more powerful than the LEI. Stephen before said, well, the LEI is just a number. It's true, it's just a 20-digit, an alphanumeric number, 20-digit, and then you have a lot of information associated to it, but ultimately it's a number, it's a code. The vLEI is much more powerful. It's something much more that unlocks a lot of possibilities, because it allows you to know not only who is your customer, so the entity, but also who is representing the entity and which is the role that the entity has in each, the person has within each entity. This is a concatenation of three elements, and this opens the door to so many opportunities, and also to a market that is estimated to be a huge market. Today I was reading some figures. We are talking about a market of between $1 and $2 billion with a compounded annual growth rate of around 15% for the next 5 years, because credentials are, organizational identities are the future. One of the major or the most important things for those that have to interact with entities and with people representing entities. And today we are in a world that is globalized, the globalization, the increase of digital, of threat, cyber threat, and so are all factors that require us to be very careful when you interact with someone that you don't know who is representing and based on which power, so which is the legitimacy of this. So sorry, but this is to say that yeah, I'm really grateful to be here, and I will be happy to present also my business case related to the ABA, why the vLEI is important.
Thank you. And Sukang, maybe you could also tell us a bit more the role of the organization and what the vLEI can bring.
Okay, thanks. Hello, everybody. My name is Gang Zhu, the General Manager from China Financial Certification Authority, which is also called the CFCA. Our company have about over 25 years old, and we issue the credentials for over 3,000 banks in China, and the amount of credential we issued per year is over 1 billion. So what does CFCA is do in the last 25 years? Finally, we found we are doing the KYC, which is, I think a lady just asked the question last panel. We do the KYC, and we make the most convenience and cost efficiency tools for the KYC. That was our objectives. So, but there's some problem when we thinking about overseas, because we have law in region or in a country, but when you cross border, you made every country have their specific laws to make how to make the different country to trust the same code or same information. That's a challenge. So that time I found also some difference between countries. Just like in Europe, if you want to get a receipt, you will say, okay, somebody signed on it. But in China, if you want a receipt, there's a chop printed on the paper. So we trust the chop, not the signature by a person. But in Europe, you trust the signature by a person, not the shop. So that's the difference between the culture between, I think, countries. And it's quite interesting when we found the vLEI is quite interesting. They have a legal entity code. And instead of that, we also have a role of a person, which is in the enterprise. So it's quite interesting. For CFCA, we are trying to monitoring all the digital identity system in globally, like EIDAS in Europe or NIST in US. From CFC point of view, we will separate into a private person's ID. And another one is for the entities, which means legal person. And also another third part is for devices or maybe application, just like some websites, maybe we can trust it, or maybe devices like a motherboard of a PC, whether these devices can be trusted. So we study on that, and okay, finally in vLEI, at least we can solve two problems. One is for entity, and another one is for personality. So that's what we are trying, and I think we have separated this in two steps. The first step is to make a standard, or to make sure that a LEI code can be supported by local law, which we use the PKI, the formal PKI technology. Based on the law in China, we will have issue a credential that both including LEI code, but also is a CA credential. So that's what I mentioned, that is the first step. The second step is that how we can to cooperate with overseas. At that time, we will find it's very difficult to use the traditional PKI technology, because we need a bridge to make trust between the CA in different countries. It's very difficult. So I found the blockchain technology of the vLEI sounds workable. I'm not sure. We are trying. So that's what we are doing. Okay? Thank you.
Thank you very much. And I'll move to Andrew to tell us precisely from the ICC perspective, I mean, how the vLEI can enhance this reliability and how it can make a difference in cross-border trade.
Thank you, Stefan. I'm not an expert in this field, but I'll certainly try. So for those of you that don't know ICC, we're a global business organization founded just after the First World War, over 100 years ago, with a vision and a mission to promote global trade as a force for good in the world, a force for peace and prosperity, which is a mission that we believe is more relevant in today's world than arguably it ever has been. About 3 years ago, and this is really what brings us here today, about 3 years ago, prompted in part by the experience we'd seen within supply chains in the early days of the COVID-19 pandemic, where there were issues with paper documentation, we made a pretty bold commitment as an organization to try and get 50% of global trade underpinned by digital processes by 2027. And I think at that time, generally the estimates were that 1% of trade was facilitated by digital data flows. Now I think we're at 5%, so progress, but still a long, long way to go. The approach we've taken to that objective that we set for ourselves and also our members is not to introduce new applications per se or new blockchain platforms like many have tried to do, but really to look at how do we enable interoperable data flows and how do we facilitate convergence across the supply chain, both from the public sector, but also critically the private sector, behind interoperable and trusted data standards. So as part of that work, we conducted a mapping of the 36 most used trade documents, which we completed, I think, towards the first quarter of this year. It was a pretty lengthy process to go through all of them, but really to look at the data elements, where there were points of comparability, but really to understand what's in them and what does the actual data infrastructure or data model for trade properly look like. From that, we identified from those 36 documents, things like warehouse receipts, packing lists, etc. We identified 189 core data elements. And I think what's interesting is just over 1/4 of those 189 data elements actually pertain to counterparty information. So who's in the supply chain? And that's why we as ICC also, like Gaetano, love the LEI and the vLEI, because we see its absolute central importance in bringing together these disparate data elements in, I don't know, tax numbers, business registration data, addresses, etc., into one interoperable piece of information. And for us, without widespread adoption of the LEI, the vLEI, we will never get anywhere near our target of 50% of trade by 2027. It is of pivotal, foundational importance. And I think you asked the question around how does the LEI or vLEI differentiate from other solutions that are out there. For us, it is unique. We hear sometimes people saying, well, you can use Dun & Bradstreet, but that's not open, accessible, or necessarily affordable to many small businesses. We have great concern about the complexity that is introduced in a digital trade environment by reliance on national identification systems such as the EID. We understand why they're used. We understand the legacy element in that. But for us, we need to, from our perspective, if we're to get real scale, and if the objective, as we would see it, is about using the power of digitalization to make trade simpler and more accessible, then a common international standard in a trade context is absolutely vital. So for us, this is an absolutely foundational piece of moving trade from an antiquated analog system to something that is digital, secure, and ultimately easier and cheaper for small businesses to transact across borders.
Thank you very much, Andrew. And yeah, we started learning with the benefits that the verifiable LEI can bring. I mean, to connect the identity of a company and the identity of a natural person, especially digital identities, connect them together, build trust on certification authorities, the prime of cross-border trust, and bringing scale, as you described, Andrew, and interoperability. I'll turn back to Gaetano in terms of benefits of the vLEI in supervisory reporting, as you were describing, and as a way to address risks as well, reduce risks and get benefits. And what do you see the vLEI can bring?
Well, I think that the great advantage of the great advantage of the vLEI is that would allow recipients like the EBA to reach the highest possible combination of security and efficiency. Let me say, this is my view. So when did the EBA start considering the vLEI as a possible solution, and why? I said before that the EBA collects data, started collecting data since the very beginning. But actually something happened in the last year, because last year the EBA was mandated to do something new from the legislation, and was mandated to collect and publish direct information from the reporting agents. This has been this is a major innovation for us, because until now, and still what we do, we collect the data from the supervisory authorities from the 30 countries, the 30 national competent authorities to Europe. So we leave to them the burden to verify, to identify, to verify the authenticity of the information that they collect and forward to us. With the new paradigm of the CRR3 for the publication of the data for Pillar 3 in the EBA's data hub, the EBA has been mandated to collect and publish directly this information. This is a major change, and required us to think how to manage this process, how to make sure, because there is no validation, no quality assurance in the middle, so how to manage the risk that someone pretending to be, as it happened in the last year in some jurisdictions, how to manage the risk that someone pretending to be a representative of a bank submits a file to the EBA, and this file with the intention of manipulating the market, because we are talking about Pillar 3 data that could be market sensitive, with the intention of manipulating the market, and the EBA in the middle without being able to verify that this data is indeed submitted by someone that is legitimate to do so. So then we assessed alternative options available. I heard about the vLEI a few years ago in one of the ROC meeting, and I thought, oh, but this could indeed address the need, could serve for the purpose. And then we asked Gartner to carry out an assessment and to look for possible alternatives in the market, and to explore if this solution could have been fit for purpose for our need. And yes, after that we ran a POC with GLEIF, and after all this work, we decided to go ahead with it. And this year we have done this project for the first time. We are the first regulator in the world that is exploring this possibility for managing a solution that is vLEI based. We have been lucky because we have been supported by not only by GLEIF but also by a very smart company, LEI, that has been the first QVI authorized, recognized in the world. And we have done this year a pilot exercise for a pilot of 13 banks now, and that have been authorized to, that have been granted the first vLEI credentials, and we have tested with them the submission of the files in our portal. And I mean, we did it, and we are able to manage this process with just very little resources once this is operational, because the process is completely decentralized. And we will complete also this pilot also with a security assessment and with a penetration test. Let's not forget that the BA is one of the authorities in charge also of DORA, so for us security and management of cyber risk is quite important, so we will do a penetration test. But once we have done also the penetration test, and this will confirm that this could be indeed something that could allow a reporting recipient like the BA to receive data in a very efficient manner with very limited resources and in a way that is as secure as possible. So then this will allow us to expand this project next year for the entire data hub, for the entire population of banks that will have to report the data for Pillar 3 to the ABA. And we will be confident that this could be done rather than in the usual manner as we used to do, and until a few years ago, maybe in something that is more automatized and could be also reused. And this is one of the other benefits that could be mentioned also for other participants that may be interested in knowing that if a bank, for example, or an entity gets a vLEI credential, a vLEI wallet, this vLEI wallet is not just for reporting some data to the ABA, but can be reused also for other business cases, signing a digital contract, reporting to another competent authority, reporting to a competent authority also in another jurisdiction. So the LEI is not something that shall be seen just as a reporting burden for reporting something to the EBA, but could unlock, as I was saying before, huge opportunities for all that have to manage the same issue, the same need that we had to deal with, we have to deal with now, and we had to start dealing with it just a few months ago. So managing organizational identities, this is the key challenge that we have all to address.
Thank you very much, and it really resonates with our own concerns in AML CFT. I mean, we get reporting not just from banks, but a very wide range of financial institutions, including money changers, for instance. One of the main challenges we have in getting reporting is actually that one certificate that gets expired and so on. So the more interoperability and reuse, as you say, the more likely it is that people will have the right certificate up to date at the right time. So it's very important. And in Europe, we are working on building this new AML authority that will start getting live, and there will be this challenge of getting reporting as well, and also one of a big expectation from the market is to get more uniformity, more standardization, including and especially in the reporting of data. So I think the precedent of the EBA is very interesting from that regard. I'll turn again to our two other panelists in terms of you described already some of the benefits. I don't know if you have any other elements to add in terms of cost savings that you identified already, or even perhaps obstacles or challenges that we need to take care of for the vLEI to succeed. Perhaps.
Okay. Weeks ago, there's another conference workshop for the APAC, the Asian Pacific Economic Committee. In that meeting, some speakers say that using digitalized code, not only the LEI, but also there's alternative codes in each industry, maybe save about 5% of the cost. But to my point of view, that quite depends on which code can be used not only in a separate industry or separate sector. Because, for example, the international trade is across a lot of industry. The shipment company, the port, the logistic domestically, the bank. So there's too many economic sectors will be involved in just one, the international trade. So which code can be acceptable by all the sectors and want to be applied it? Okay, the percentage of the application of the code, I think this will save more and more cost. So depends on this. I think all the enterprise or the economic entity in the society, the first thing they do after they are resurrected by the governments is go to the bank and open an account. And the KYC and the LEI code can be issued to him. Okay, so most likely that the LEI as the basic founded by in finance industry, most likely can be used and the most the internet for the international trade. So I think I guess it should be save over 10 or 15% cost in the future. Okay.
Thanks. Andrew, any take on this point?
Absolutely. So I'll start with one specific example that we've identified from our research in the digital trade space, and then just point to two more general opportunities that we see. So first, we were involved in a pilot project, I think it was last year, with two digital trade platforms, TradeGo and Wave BL, to pilot the use of electronic bills of lading, EBLs, embedding the vLEI. And the outcomes of that pilot project can be found in a report we published just a few months ago called Key Trade Documents and Data Elements in Action. It's available on the ICC website. But what you see from the findings of that pilot project are really quite stunning. So first of all, major efficiency gains in terms of onboarding processes, going from 3 days down to 3 hours. Total elimination of discrepancies, so platform alignment with LEI records reduced discrepancies by 100%. A general sense as well that there was significantly enhanced security and transparency, and also feedback from participants that there was stronger regulatory buy-in. So I think that's a pretty good performance from that particular pilot. There's lots more detail in the report. I'd love to be able to tell you it. It's in my talking points, but I forgot to bring my reading glasses. So that's the best I can tell you. But two broader strategic points. We, like many business organizations, do periodic surveys of our membership. And our membership is roughly, I'd say, 70% small businesses, 30% major multinationals. When we talk to the small business at the SME component of our membership, the one issue that always comes up as a first order priority is access to finance. And under that particular issue is the challenge of KYC in terms of access to bank accounts or being onboarded by banks, which I think we heard in the first panel, but also just in terms of applications to access trade finance in particular. There we see a particular opportunity for the LEI if it can be used to streamline KYC processes to really democratize access to finance. And this is an acute challenge within a number of regions, particularly MENA, South Asia, Sub-Saharan Africa, and parts of Latin America. And likewise, if possible, can it arrest the erosion we're seeing in the correspondent banking market, which new research from a number of European academics show is having a terribly corrosive effect on the trade performance of small businesses in many developing and also middle market economies. So there we see a strategic opportunity. But when we speak to big corporates in our network, the thing almost increasingly they refer to as an existential challenge is the issue of compliance with trade requirements at the border to show transparency in the supply chain. CBAM, forced labor requirements in the US and more recently in the European Union, the EU deforestation requirement. We see companies of enormous sophistication, brand name corporates in a range of sectors seriously struggling with this problem and not being able to find a solution. Here we see a remarkable role for the LEI, the vLEI, in actually being able to bring proper, trusted traceability so companies can actually prove to customs authorities where their goods are sourced through the supply chain. If only we can get to the level of adoption across the business community that's required, and certainly we take our responsibility in championing LEI adoption very, very seriously.
Thank you very much. And we want to also leave some time to the audience to ask questions to our panelists. Yes.
Yes, thank you very much. We work in the space of information integrity, so basically authenticating sources of information, including journalistic output, mitigating disinformation. And what we experienced in the past months, I would say, is that the term trust is becoming more and more toxic, weaponized, tribalized even, so we even try to avoid it. And for that matter, I was just wondering, can you provide a boilerplate definition of the term trust that you use internally as well as externally? Thank you.
Perhaps to make it manageable as well, is what is the trust we are talking when we said that the vLEI is bringing trust? I don't know if any of you can, I mean, for us, it's at least as supervisors, the reliability. I mean, reminding on what Andrew said on the KYC and verification. In Europe, we are talking about mandating now with the new package EIDAS for onboarding, remote onboarding. So the question, of course, is how reliable it is, but it's, again, having something, a certified process that will enable to ascertain the identity of the person you have in front of you. And the challenge here for identifying remote onboarding is not only making sure that you have the right name, but that the person that is pretending to open the account is the person with that name. So for us, another challenge we see as supervisor in terms of preventing fraud, especially impersonification of fraud, where fraudster pretend to be a legal entity. It's very easy to just get the information from the LEI or the business registry. The very complex part where entity, where banks, where payment institutions fail is this link between the entity, the representative, the leader of the organization that has a signature, and the one that can, I mean, in this entity. So again, trust, from my perspective in AML, is really this reliability of identity. But maybe, I don't know if you have any other element to add. Otherwise,
I think that you summarized it really well. I think that, I mean, when I used to be a supervisor in another life, I knew the people that were representing the bank that I was in charge of, because I was able to have a face-to-face relationship with them. Now, for me, trust is that I have to trust not the person, because I never see the person that is presenting something. I just get the file, and I don't know if this file is reliable or not. I don't have any human interaction with a person that is pretending to represent an entity, a legal entity, in a country that I don't know, from a jurisdiction that I don't know. So this is, for me, the major challenge as far as I am concerned. Trust for me means that I can trust the information that I get from someone that I don't know and that I have never seen and I will never see in my life, probably.
Any other question? Yeah, please.
Thank you for the very concise discussions. My name is Maureen Mba. I work for the African Export-Import Bank. We are headquartered in Cairo. We are actually what you may call a wholesale bank, a DFI, that takes charge of everything Africa, irrespective of which sector of the economy, financial institutions, corporate entities, as well as SMEs. I must applaud GLEIF for inviting us to this very important session. I think it gives us that opportunity to have more, learn more from interactions, from dialogues like this, because it gives us the opportunity to understand our own terrain, our own markets in our regions. I'm happy when Andrew was discussing going into MENA, and of course, MENA takes charge of Middle East and North African countries, then Africa, Sub-Saharan Africa, he mentioned all those. And when Gang was talking about, oh, I don't know who the person is, I just believe the LEI will give me what I want. You don't know the jurisdiction. But we at the African Export-Import Bank, and of course as an African entity, we've come up with the AEI code, which is Africa Entity Identifier, which we are working with GLEIF as well to see the adoption of the AEI, because it gives you that opportunity to understand who are you dealing with. And for us being on the terrain, we have that link between our different entities. The other thing is for us, because the issue there, Andrew was talking about how do we identify the issues, the challenges we have from our various, you're talking about developing countries. Africa is one of the developing continents. And we have a humongous resources, both human, natural, name it. But at the same time, the capacity is not there. We have to build that capacity. We have to train our entities. We also have to make sure that we create that window for our SMEs to start looking upwards. Because what is happening in today's business in Africa is that because we realize that there's a huge knowledge gap, we have to train our SMEs. And we borrow from, when we listen to entities like you, and when we listen to dialogues like this, it gives us that type of a sigh of relief that we can do better in Africa, and that we have the opportunity to do better by making sure we start training our African entities and bringing them up to speed, making sure they understand. Because for any given business, when you talk about KYC, it's like you are scaring them away. They don't want to give you any information. Today we talk about the data protection policy, DPP. We talk about GDPR, which is, of course, the European Union related. In Africa, how do we apply that? Because we need to make sure that we get information, and those information are credible and authentic information. That's why we have that repository called the Mansa Digital Initiative that collects information about our various African entities. Today, there's a huge gap in the informal, in the SME sector, because there's a lot of informal markets which thrive in Africa. They're making money, but they're not following the proper channel. So I believe that this type of forum, if we can have the opportunity, that's why I applaud GLEIF, if we can have the opportunity of participating in this type of forum, so that when you discuss there, and I'm happy when Andrew mentioned the sub-Saharan Africa, the MENA jurisdictions as well, because it tells us, yes, we can have a voice. When we are discussing like this, one of us can come up and tell you our pain points. Then you can tell us, how do we address it? How do we collaborate? Because collaboration is key here. How do we work together to start sending that message across our SMEs and bringing them into that work stream to ensure that they now understand? So when you are doing a cross-border payment, when you are doing a cross-border trade, it is very clear to you that the person you are dealing with, you know the person. Number one, you know the natural, because today we're talking about UBO. It's a central item when it comes to compliance issue. How can we defend our
Thank you very much.
Sorry, I'm taking too much time. But
thank you
I
very
want
much
to
for your
send
comments.
that message so that we'll understand where I'm coming from.
I think your comments illustrate, when the benefits of the LEI remind me of the early times of the LEI, bringing a common language, data language, to the business registry, and you don't know necessarily what is the right business registry in a country, you go to the LEI system, the GLEIF, and you get the data you need on an entity. The vLEI is trying to bring the same benefits and the knowledge and expertise, creating also those issuers to get and leverage on the developments made by the system. So I think it's a nice conclusion, I think, for our panel, so we can probably thank our panelists for the discussion. Thank you very much.
Well, thank you once again to the panelists and to the moderator as well. That was very excellent discussion and very insightful. So with this, we are going to conclude the formal agenda of the GLEIF Forum 2024. But as you know, and as we did already last year for the very first time, now is the time for the award ceremony to highlight and to award those best performing LOUs for data quality and service level targets. So same as last year, basically for the sake of consistency and fairness, we have followed the same methodology, which is briefly explained in the slide there. We are gonna be looking at the same time range that we did previously for this year, and there are two main criteria that we evaluate. First, the data quality performance, which is equal to the number of unique check failures per LOU. And then we look into the SLA performance, which is basically the number of months with breaches in relation to the escalation level. Maybe this is very technical for some of the attendees here, but the LOUs, they understand the difference between level 1, level 2, level 3 escalation. After that, we have a scoring system, and then we make an average calculation per LOU. Now, a very important remark is that we understand the complexity of managing different size of portfolios. Therefore, there are 3 different categories. The small category for those LOUs who have less than 5,000 LEIs under their management, the mid-size category between 5,000 and 100, and then the large size. And therefore, each LOU, depending on the size of their portfolios, they compete in those categories accordingly. So without further ado, we would like to call to the stage the first winner of the best performing LOUs in the small size category, and the prize goes to Depository Central Romania.
Hello, everybody, ladies and gentlemen, and dear colleagues. Although this is the second time when I stand in front of you for receiving this award, I am even more excited than last year. First of all, I would like to thank the small but very dedicated LEI team from Depositariul Central Romania. These awards remind us that we have to continue our work with the same responsibility. Thank you very much for this recognition. I have to say that it is a privilege for us to be part of the global LEI system and community. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And now we continue, and we would like to call to the stage the winner of the best performing LOU in the mid-size category, and the prize goes to KDPW.
Pictures done. Oh, it's very nice situation, but very stressful. What I can say, I believe that I have minimum 1 minute because I know that we are behind the schedule. First of all, on behalf of KDPW management team, management board, and the numbering agency team, and of course trade repository department, I would like to express my gratitude for this award. This award reflects our commitment to maintaining high standards within the GLEIF Global LEI system. For years, for KDPW, for Trade Repository Department, for numbering agency, of course, good quality of reference data is more than important. For us, this is like a fundament for every good solution for now and for the future. Secondly, I would like to say that we really appreciate the support from the GLEIF side. The fact that I'm here with the awards is like testament to the hard work of KDPW employees, as well the strong partnership with the GLEIF community. As you probably know, we were one of the first law accredited by GLEIF many years ago, and also one of the first entity to join ANNA LEI initiative, connect both standard ISIN codes and LEI codes because you should remember that identification of entity, dedicated code for identification of the entity is LEI, but for instrument ISIN codes. Last but not least, I would like to say that today is special day for our company. Many years ago, exactly 30 years ago, this day, our company was established. First service was the settlement, so it means that, as one of panelists said, it was on the paper, but now we are using both standards, for example, and billion records every day. So, of course, I would like to say thank you very much for my employees. It is a hard job, and one part of the team is in this hall. Bożena, Piotr, bardzo dziękuję. In Poland means thank you very much. And of course, Alexander, David, Claire, and Campo, thanks a lot again for this award. Thank you very much.
Thank you. And now, the last one, we would like to call to the stage the winner of the Best Performing LOU in the large size category. And the prize goes to Infocamera.
Good afternoon, everyone. This isn't a mistake. Is it? Okay. I just need 2 hours to thank all members of my teams. It's okay with everyone. I'm joking. I'd like to thank GLEIF here for this prize. It's a great pleasure to receive this recognition for work done over 2 consecutive years. I don't know why. I'm joking. I absolutely must thank all the people whose experience and professionalism have made it possible for me to be here. I'm very proud of them and honored to represent them. I'm confident that we could continue to improve the entire LEI system, and I look forward to seeing you again next year on stage for another prize. Thank you so much.
So, closing remarks. As we are late, I'm not going to speak a lot because I've spoken too much this week already to the board, to the ROC. Tomorrow I will be presenting the strategy to the LOU. Will be you in the room for most of you. So I would like to thank the team for organizing this great event, which was my first, obviously. And also for not having me on stage to speak, because I spoke too much this week, so thank you for that. I want to thank you for joining this forum. It was my first experience with the forum. I found it very interesting to see you all talk with one another between LOUs. I can feel that it's really a family, and I'm really glad to be part of this family now. And without further ado, I would like to invite you to the cocktail that will happen just after this session. Thank you.